And we're back. Transform your relationships live. I'm Laura Rubinstein here with the awesome and fabulous Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Hi, Rhoberta.
Hello, Laura, the queen of adjectives. I'm glad that we're having another time to talk because the world is spinning a little faster. We don't know where to pay attention. It seems cumulative. We could be getting more stressed. So we're going to talk about that today.
You think? I've heard so many people, I feel it myself, the tensions that are out there, people are taking on the stress of the world in addition to their own life stresses. So we want to go from overwhelm to peace. Where do we begin?
Oh, that's a big journey. I mean, maybe we could go to from overwhelm to just whelm.
Well,
Because, peace is something that we develop over time where we pay attention to creating opportunities to become peaceful so that when we get into a difficult situation, we can restore that peace. We're coming from that place. Many people have not done that. They haven't got a baseline of peace. They've been caught up in things. So that's why I say it's a big, big topic, because if things generally don't rattle your cage too badly, then you know what to do. But if you are just being, as I often say on my channel, batted about like a cat toy by life, then it's a big journey. And I understand why people get really depressed or frustrated or anxious. So the first step is to know that you can create a moment of peace in your life very purposefully. You don't have to be that cat toy. You don't have to be following the cat toy and wondering where is it going when someone else is directing it. So the first thing is to be able to breathe yourself down, to just be able to say, all right, in this moment, there is nothing I can do about whatever it is. In this moment, I don't have to do anything that I could do about whatever it is. I can simply take a moment of breathing. And I honestly believe, Laura, that a deep breath is the most luxurious, least expensive vacation on the planet.
ding, ding, ding. I just did it. That was awesome.
So when we want to use our physiology well, we want to breathe in deeply through our nose, perhaps to a count of 4. Then just stay filled for a count of 7. Then exhale forcefully through your mouth for a count of 8 until everything is out. And then do it again. In through the nose for 4. Wait for 7. Exhale through the mouth for 8. And we begin to reoxygenate our system. When we bring in a lot of oxygen through the nose, little fact, it takes 20 seconds for that nostril full of oxygen to go all the way around your blood system. And then when you exhale, it gets rid of all the carbon dioxide it picked up. So you relax. And then your brain goes, oh, we have a little oxygen here. And so when you repeat that a few times, you can reduce your anxiety, reduce your stress, retain your focus. Now, okay, now there's a little minute. So that's a starting point.
I love it. We've talked about breathing before, and I love that 4-7. Did you say 4-7-8 breathing?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's powerful. It really is state changing. I use it a lot. I feel like that is like the first go-to line of, I don't know if it's defense, but it's line of proaction towards peace and sanity. Because I think in insane times, we need to retain our sanity. And I like what you're saying. You're saying focus on something else, I think, is the next maybe step. So you're focusing on your breathing, then focus on what next?
You just say, okay, I'm calming. Now I'm going to think about something that brings me peace or brings me happiness or brings me joy. You can just simply go somewhere, like remember someone you love. Remember a place you've been that was awe-inspiring. Just go there for a few minutes. Allow yourself to recognize. I wrote a book called What You Pay Attention to Expands. It's still available on Amazon. And that's the way the brain works. And you know that as a hypnotherapist, that when you focus the brain, that gets bigger and bigger. So you wake up in the middle of the night, you think you heard a noise, you're straining to listen. Oh, there's noises. What was that? Oh, this is terrible. What could it be? And you start, this gets bigger and bigger and bigger in your mind. What woke me up? That's really strange. Was the universe trying to get my attention? What are these noises? Oh, you can make it into the most huge fabrication. But in actual fact, if you wake up and you hear a noise and you don't hear anything further, the idea is to say, oh, I can go back to sleep. But if we're on high alert, that's just an example of what we'll do. We'll try to magnify the sound. Am I missing something? And we'll go deeply into places that are going to keep us awake. So knowing that you're choosing what you pay attention to, that what you pay attention to will expand. So if I pay attention to this wonderful bed, it's so comfy, it's warm, I am totally supported by this bed, you're more likely to go to sleep. So just as a very broad example, that can be extremely helpful.
Yeah. Between the breathing, the focus on the bed, on the comfort, on the things that are good and loving in your world, it can be very nurturing and can allow us to step out into it. And even by watching the two of us talk on, it's about, okay, taking care of oneself, one's soul. And I love that focus back on oneself. So can we get to sanity? Can we, on a long, like, what happens when it just, then we go back, our little gremlins, they take over and they're like, no, but, and I'm afraid of, and oh my gosh, the world is, I don't know what to do. I feel out of control. I think a lot of people feel like helpless, out of control. There's nothing they can do. And what I heard you say was, that's right. There's nothing you can do right now in this moment. And you're not adding to the positive forward movement by being in a chaotic state. It feels like almost a responsibility to take care of ourselves, to bring more peace to our lives so we can be a peaceful presence, or a little bit more peaceful.
Well, what do we want to be transmitting? Do we want to be transmitting peace, or do we want to be transmitting stress and anxiety? So we are that transmitter. We have to change our state, or to maintain a state of more peaceful dwelling. Now, I can hear almost voices from afar listening saying, what do you mean? It's not that simple. You can't do that. Well, it takes practice. It really does take practice. And it goes back to what I said earlier. If you haven't had a meditation practice or a calming practice or a yoga practice or something that allows you to say, I can do something about my anxiety or my state, then it may be a little more daunting for you. But know that it's possible, definitely possible, to learn to be less affected by what's going on around you purposefully. It's not that you don't take it in. I mean, I listen to the news. I watch YouTube. I want to stay informed, but there's a barrier between that information and my body going into something that would resemble anxiety, because it's information. Sometimes we don't make that distinction between information and something I should do something about.
Right.
Right, like information coming in. Oh, yes, there was an acceleration. More people died. A maternity hospital was bombed. That is not anything that you can do anything about, except say, I'm going to send loving thoughts to the people who are affected, and participate in that way, so that it helps you, it helps them. It's not like you can get on a plane, go to Ukraine, and start, fending off bombs. We can't do that. So it's important for us to be the best we can be, in the best state, so that we can manage this stuff coming in. And as I said earlier, if that's not something that you've ever been successful at or even tried, it may take you a little more, but it's really imperative to do that. When Charles Anderson and I wrote Soul Solitude, Taking Time for Our Souls to Catch Up, we talk a lot about how to stay in the present moment, how to bring ourselves to that understanding of ourselves and our ability to do that for ourselves. And that's important, because if you don't have some soul solitude, you may be rattled easily. So developing a practice is important.
Especially if you're a sensitive person.
Especially.
It's really important. And what I would like to reframe for myself in these chaotic times is I'm building a new muscle of how to stay present, of how to get back to my center and peace, no matter what's going on in my personal life or in the world. Is like, it's kind of important for the world, for the what am I transmitting out there in the world, to be at peace, to be a healing presence for myself, for my family, for my world and community. And we need more people taking on this peaceful presence, bringing back the focus to self-love and then emanating love out there. And yes, are there things we can do to help others? Sure. You can't, like you said, fly on a plane over there, and well, maybe you can if you're certain people, but maybe you can't be over there and do something, but you can look for ways to contribute. Read the articles that are suggesting ways to funnel money, funnel supplies, funnel expertise over to that area of the world, and be that healing presence, especially if that's what's you're being very sensitized to. But if you're going to help, you have, one of the first things to do is to take care of yourself, right? Like, put on your mask first before you go help somebody else, I think is a universal principle, so that we can have a good outcome.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't really very helpful to go to your neighbor and say, oh, this is terrible. What are we going to do about this? I'm so upset, blah, 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 blah. Why not bring yourself down first before you go and agitate another? I know. I mean, that sounds so pat when I say it. And I realize that if you're in anxiety, you probably want to slap me up the side of the head when I say that. But, it is training that muscle that you're talking about to, okay, can I do something about this? Can I reframe this for myself?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe contribution is just sending calm thoughts, sending love, sending the idea of peace. And again, that sounds really woo-woo, but it calms you, and it says, okay, if I'm one less agitated person, will that not help? Well, it will, because those people around you will be affected by your ability to calm yourself. Doesn't mean you're detached. It doesn't mean you're in denial. It means that you've been proactive to take yourself to a place that is most peaceful for you. And then you can think more clearly. When our shoulders are up by our earlobes, all that energy that's doing that is unavailable for us to be calm and resourceful and thoughtful. We can't even think straight when we are in anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's an important thing to do. And for many people, anxiety is kind of immediate. And if that's your situation, then this is a good time to start learning how to calm that. And it's not easy. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. But it's worth it. You don't want to be batted around like a cat toy. Everything that comes by, you're just like batting it and say, what do I do about that? Oh, there's another one, and you're batting it. Then you're not in control of you. The world is in control of you. Other people are in control of you. And I bet you don't even like the sound of that when I say it. The other people are in control of you. That's a good thing to say. No, I can take my peace back. I can do that. And then you begin to feel that you're emerging empowered.
I love that. Taking my peace back, baby.
You're not going to rattle my cage,
My peace is my peace, and I get to keep my peace.
Exactly. And just because you come and you're all rattled doesn't mean that I'm going to jump in and be rattled with you, because how is that helpful? People come to me to be unrattled. What if I got rattled? What would they do then? You know, part of being able to do the work that I do is keeping myself in the state to be able to do it.
And you're the perfect place to go to. And I see this in my practice too. When people come to me agitated, it's behooves us to be in that state of calm. And like you said, don't be spreading the agitation. If you have it and you need to release it, do it with a professional. you know, it's really a perpetration almost to be that way with somebody else. In fact, I felt myself do that with a friend. I had an experience I just reacted to a webinar I was on and something that was said on it. And I like kind of verbal vomited on somebody, and I apologized afterwards. I was like, I think I took the energy of our whole relationship in that moment down to a place that I really regret. And I want to know how I can make it up to you. And she was somebody who could do exactly what you said, luckily, and said, you know what, that I had the ability to not take that on. And that was lucky for me. But not everybody does have that skill, and it's nice to have friends who do. But when you can't assume that, and it did feel like I put something negative in the space of our relationship, and I regretted that. So I think that this is another point of owning our own peace and that importance of easing that overwhelm.
And I think there's a distinction to be made in what you just said, that yes, we go to someone and say, wow, I'm really on edge about this, or this is really bothering me. That's a conversation. And we can definitely have conversations with our friends. But if we go and we're totally out of control, our friends can't help us. And that's when you need to get professional help, because it spreads like a virus. You go and you're all agitated, and they get all agitated, and then they get upset. Maybe they feel resentful. Maybe you add to their depression or their overwhelm, and now we've just stirred the pot all over the place.
Yeah, and we keep a spiraling out of control, and that's what we don't want.
Yeah.
We're good at doing that. Complicated and chaos is easy in this world. Simplifying back to peace, solitude, like you said, soul solitude is not simple. It seems like well, it may be simple, it's just not easy because it's easier to create that chaos. But there's this little muscle that we are talking about today to build, to get back to peace.
Also, there's kind of a thing that people who like to gossip hope to create, right? They want to have somebody else join them in their misery, someone else to validate that this is awful, this is terrible, this shouldn't be happening. And I understand that, you want someone to validate your experience. However, we have to know the limits of that. Okay, well, I can recognize that. I can recognize somebody who brings that energy to me. And then we have that turning point where we say, well, where do we want to be? Okay, here's where we are, but where would we prefer to be? We have that power. And if we don't have that power, learn to acquire that power to make those changes so that you are a transformer of an energetic state, as opposed to just constantly being in a agitated state.
Yes.
Because people see you coming, oh, here comes that energy, here comes all of that, and I don't know what to do with it. And then the friend feels inadequate, perhaps annoyed, resentful, or goes down the tube with you. And now we have two people who are unable to help each other. So, if you recognize these patterns, it's not wrong or bad or any of those things. It's just a pattern. Recognize it and say, well, here's somewhere that I can empower myself to do differently and learn how to do that. It's not instant, but in small steps, you will get better at it. And then you will feel like, oh, I can actually bring myself to a place I can still breathe.
Yeah.
Often I work with people with high anxiety. They have anxiety attacks or things like that. It is a journey, but a worthwhile journey for sure.
Definitely. I feel like when we take those like you said, we said many a times on these shows, teeny tiny doable steps, whether it's the breathing, the redirecting the focus. We're taking a step away from what I call feeding the beast, the internal, chaotic spinning, the need for going out there to spew. Internal spinning and out external spewing is just going to, if we can take those teeny tiny doable steps, we can kind of lower that chaos.
Mm-hmm. And if you happen to be with one of those people I talk about all the time, the hijackals, they're very intent on keeping you spinning in chaos. They love to keep you on edge because it gives them power over you. So if life's events can have power over you, imagine how a hijackal in your life can have power over you. And when you hear that, you may want to say, I'm going to learn that skill because I'm not going to just allow people to come by and spin. You may have a lot of plates in the air, but who's spinning them? If somebody else or events outside are spinning them and you can shut that out. Not entirely. I mean, we're not hermits. Yes, we can refuse to go on the internet for a few days, which can be a very healthy thing to do. But just notice your internal energy. Calm it for yourself, right? If you wake up in the morning with, what about this and what about that? Take a few moments. I'm just going to sit. I'm just going to say, let me breathe. Let me calm my nervous system. We are nervous systems, and they are operating even without our permission. So if you come back to say, I think my nervous system needs my attention, and you learn how to give it some, that's a plus all round.
Yeah. Yes. I love where we've taken this and how we can take back our power, take on our power, acknowledge our power, use our power to create peace for ourselves. And the reframe for me is this is an opportunity to build my skills, to become better, to empower myself, like you say, emerge empowered and grow. So there's a gift in this, in a sense. It's an opportunity to get better, to be a more healing presence when we are encountering chaos and those people called hijackals.
Yeah, well, people like to have an effect on other people. We all do. Which kind of effect are you going to have on people? You're going to help them spin their plates, or you're going to help them stop spinning their plates. It's a beginning point to say, am I going to add to the chaos, or I'm going to reduce the chaos? I'm not just going to jump in and spin with them, because that's not going to help anything. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I have no clue how to do it, well, we gave you a few clues. Focus on the breath, calm the breath, lay down, put yourself on a bed, let the bed support you. Be aware of that. Just take your attention to that. Am I withholding any part of my body from the bed? Are my shoulders up by my earlobes? Can I allow the bed to support that? Can I allow the bed to support the back of my knees or my jaw or whatever? And just exhale and allow the bed to support you. As you start doing that, or if you have a yoga practice, you do shavasana, then you are going to know that you can have those moments when you have given yourself over to support, and whether that support is the bed and you're happy with that, or the floor that you're lying on, or it is your spiritual belief system that you then can say, I am supported in every possible way. You've taken the moment to find peace. Then when you get up and move on, you take a different energy with you. And if it doesn't last very long, do it again. But it will begin to last as long as you do, as Laura says, you exercise that muscle. Yeah.
There's another thing that comes to mind that might be very appealing for many people, which is the power of prayer. And speaking it in the positive, what you wish for people and what you wish for yourself, and how you feel connected. Build that connection to that higher power can be very powerful as well.
And whether that high power is just something general like nature or the universe, or you have a specific belief system, it's supposed to be there to support you, not to agitate you, but to give you support and peace. So focus on that. When I'm saying speak it into being, say, I am going to approach the world in an equitable manner.
Mm.
When I get up from this meditation, I'm going to take this peace with me. Speak these things into being. Know that you can. Know that, yeah, if you don't believe that, well, then of course it won't help. But try it anyway, and see if you can find something to believe in that will move you in that direction. It doesn't have to be anything difficult or trying or requiring 3 degrees to do. Just know that you can calm yourself. Believe that you can calm yourself. Believe that you have the ability to breathe and that it will have an effect on you.
Yeah.
Many people say, oh, I don't have time for that. Oh, so you have time for all the anxiety, right? Think it's difficult to think logically when you're in a funk.
Yeah. And
So
a lot of times people think there's nothing they can do. Well, we just, breathing, conscious attention to your breathing is something you can do. So ask yourself, instead of saying there's nothing I can do, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I wonder what
what's
I can
one
do.
thing I can do?
What's one thing I can do? I can breathe. That's great. That's true. That's peace promoting.
Exactly. Consciously breathe.
So,
Even if you don't do anything as structured as 4-7-8 breathing, just focus on your exhalation. It will take your shoulders down from your earlobes. It'll relax your jaw. It'll relax your tension in your temples. I tell people years ago when I worked with people with chronic pain and life-threatening illnesses, one of the most important things I could teach them, and it's still one of the most important things I teach people now, is the power of the exhalation. Whenever you have a moment when you can feel tension building, blow out. Why I started teaching that to people who had chronic pain and things is because at the moment that they're feeling that chronic, when they become aware of that chronic pain, their first inclination is to go and they breathe in and they tense everything. So if I could train them, help them be training themselves to exhale, that was the important thing.
the power of the exhalation. I learned something new today. Yes, it is. That's the relaxation part of breathing.
Right.
I love it.
So, somebody's saying something, a hijackal saying something, somebody you don't appreciate saying something, maybe on the television, and you just go, one thing I can do is I can exhale and relax. And that can really help. Really help.
Yeah. Well, I hope this has helped everybody
I
take a
hope
little
so too.
breath and bring a little more peace today to handling those hijackals and chaotic situations. Thank you so much for this enlightening and informative, educational, and inspiring. Again, I have the queen of adjectives time.
There she goes, the queen of adjectives. And I hope that you are having a superlative day and that you have acquired endless knowledge and ideas for solving the problems when you face anxiety.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll be back soon.
Bye-bye.